the next question I had was, how do you supercharge? So, this is actually fairly easy. Again, you will need to have a fuel scoop for this. So, I did show you last night, but for anybody that was not around last night, this is how you supercharge off of a Neutron or a white dwarf. And I will suggest, until you get the hang of it, until you get some experience, don't try supercharging off of a white dwarf, because white dwarf stars have incredibly large exclusion zones, and the supercharge that you get from them is not worth potentially getting cooked by a white dwarf. You only get like 1.5 times the boost from a white dwarf star, whereas a neutron star, you get 4 times the jump range off of a single boost from a neutron. So yeah, if you're gonna boost off a neutron, I would avoid boosting off of a white dwarf, because the benefit you get is extremely minimal for the risk you're taking for it. Someone ball tackle. So, how do you supercharge off of a neutron? It's actually fairly easy. We have our neutron star right in front of us. So, we approach at a modest speed. The blue zone. And you basically don't do that. I was paying attention to you guys. Let me show you again. So, see, this is why I'm doing this live. Because to show you guys, even I screw up. Even I screw up some of the most basic stuff. So, you approach the neutron star, modest speed, even a slow speed. And you go a little parallel to it, and sort of ease down into the jet cone. Once you hear that, you can throttle to 0. Wait till you get frame shift drive supercharged, then throttle up, and it'll take you out. You'll get bounced out of the cone. You don't need to worry about overheating in the cone, because the cone does not cause heat. You can, in fact, engage your you can actually charge your next jump while in the jet cone of a neutron star, and you will not heat up. So that's a kind of a nice feature. I wouldn't suggest doing it until you get experience, but it's, it's not difficult to do, a couple times. When you do it a couple times, you may miss. Okay? The first couple of times you go to charge off a neutron, a lot of you probably will end up doing this. You might come at it a little bit too steep and go, okay, I got this. And
warning, frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
And shoot through it. It may be even faster. If you come at the neutron at a right angle, like this, if you come at the jet cone like this,
warning, frameshift drive
you'll go right through it.
Beyond safety limits.
You need to actually sit in the jet cone for 7 seconds for your frameshift drive to get supercharged. Well, I mean, Revan, obviously, it's an intentional mechanic, otherwise Frontier would have never put it into the game. Now, how did people discover it? That I don't know. But this is obviously an intentional mechanic, or it would have never been in the game in the first place. Because while neutron stars are, of course, real, the spaceships you fly in Elite are not. And so Frontier had to actively choose to make going into a jet cone with a fuel scoop on a ship to be able to allow your frameshift drive to get supercharged. So that it is an intentional mechanic. And yes, don't drop out of Super Cruise when you're in the jet cone. If you drop out of Super Cruise in the jet cone, you're pretty much done. When you are not in Super Cruise, the jet cone will damage you like crazy. The only hope you have is to try and jump back into Super Cruise to fly away, But usually if you drop into the jet cone of a neutron star, your frameshift drive gets killed off almost immediately, and the chances of you being able to jump free are very, very slim. Very slim. So, that is how you supercharge off of Neutron. Just ease in nice and slow. Kind of run almost parallel with your nose slightly down. Just drop into the cone.
Warning, frameshift drive operating
And just let the cone take you. And then once it says frameshift drive supercharged, throttle up and leave the cone, and you now have 4 times your jump range. I can try to do an outside view. Let's see, which one I think it's gonna be. Whoop. I'm trying to remember which my key binding is for. Yeah. What's my key binding for my camera? There it is. Okay. So let me see if I can. Let me see if I can do an outside view. It's gonna be a little tough because that's an awkward angle for me to be doing this at. Right, well, and white dwarf stars have incredibly huge exclusion zones. Whereas Jackson's Lighthouse and other neutron stars have a very small exclusion zone. Alright. So, hopefully I can do this. It's hard to do this from an outside view. Okay?
Warning, frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard to see what the hell I'm doing.
Warning, frameshift
Well, I'm still in the tail of the cow.
beyond safety limits.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to see just what the heck I'm doing from that outside view, because the angle is slightly off. Let's see. Let me try and get lined up on this. There we go.
Drive operating beyond safety
So your
limits.
ship goes bouncing around, and then says frameshift drive supercharged, so you can throttle up
Warning,
and
frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
escape the cone. And route. So yeah, now, as I've mentioned before, every time you go into the jet cone of a neutron star, your frameshift drive is going to take damage. Notice what the health of my frameshift drive is at. It's at 91%. Every time I went into that jet cone and it said, warning, frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits, that took 1% of health from my frameshift drive. Once your frameshift drive's health drops below 80%, that's when your frameshift drive will start actually malfunctioning. So when you go to do a hyperspace jump, it may say, warning, frameshift drive malfunction. And you might need to wait a few seconds for the frameshift drive to come back online again. Thank you, I'm a dragon. Thank you for the prime. And if you are dropped out of Super Cruise and your frameshift drive's health is below 80%, you might have trouble getting back into Super Cruise again. So if you are under attack and you want to engage frameshift drive to make an escape, your frameshift drive could malfunction and you won't be able to get into Super Cruise and get out of danger. Basically, Kanito, yes. The way to counteract this is if you have an AFMU module, optional module, AFNU, which is a repair module. If you have one of those, then you see here where it shows repair, but it's red. It's red and has a line to the square. If I had an AFMU optional module, this repair box would look like this. And I would be able to actually repair the health of my frame shift drive. So that is how you would counter that's how you can deal with receiving neutron damage or any other damage to your internal modules.